Exactly 4 years ago today, February 1st, 2022, an injury forced me out of the trades at the age of 51. That left me with a lot of questions. What was I going to do with my time? What was next? Could I afford to retire in Canada at that stage? Spoiler alert, absolutely not. Turns out, despite everything looking like an ending, that was actually the beginning of some of the best years of my life. Today, I'm in South America. I've been living down here for over 3 years and volunteering, mostly in Ecuador, now in Colombia and soon Bolivia and beyond. I'm doing meaningful things with my time and my life, and it's complete freedom. It's far more fulfilling than any paycheck I've ever had, and it gives me the ability to serve in meaningful ways while traveling around South America and other parts of the world. That wasn't on my radar when I was injured, when life finally smacked me with a 2x4 hard enough to get my attention and force me to look at what my life was. And I had to ask the question, do I want to continue doing this? The predictable, the grind, the day-to-day, the unfulfilling, stressful life? I decided no. I was going to take a chance and leap into the unknown, and I'm so glad that I did. It made me ask some significant questions, and it took a while to get answers to those questions, but I finally settled on a blueprint that was created 180 years before. And I've used that as a map to plan my next moves, to start again in South America, and to create a very simple and deliberate life that is far more fulfilling. Simple living isn't about deprivation or becoming an ascetic or selling everything you own and starting all over again. It's about living deliberately, figuring out what's important to you and making choices that allow you to live a more fulfilling and meaningful life on your own terms. For me, it means the freedom to explore and to serve. In 1845, Henry David Thoreau was 28 years old, living in Concord, and decided this wasn't the life for him. He saw what people around him were doing, the things they were chasing, and realized this isn't a fit for me. So he left and went to live in the woods. For my part, I didn't go to the woods. I went to Ecuador. And I used Walden as my blueprint. I took the lessons that he laid out in that book 180 years before and applied them to my life to see if they were still relevant. This is the story of that ongoing experiment. Henry David Thoreau, born 1817 in Concord, Massachusetts. Educated at Harvard, did a bunch of odd jobs, and realized he wanted something different. In 1845, at the age of 28, he borrowed some land from his friend and mentor, Ralph Waldo Emerson, and built a cabin on the shore of Walden Pond. This cabin was 10 by 15 feet. It cost him $28, 12.5 cents to build, and he tracked every expense to the penny. His goal wasn't to escape, it was to experiment, to see if what society was telling him was necessary, was really necessary, if that was going to make him happy, or if maybe he could find a better way. He stripped his life down as far as he could and landed on 4 very simple needs: food, shelter, clothing, and warmth. Everything else was optional until proved otherwise. Now, at Walden, he spent 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days. He wrote very eloquently and in great detail about that experiment and released that book, Walden, or Life in the Woods, in 1854. And it's still used by a lot of people today who are looking for a more meaningful and purposeful and simple way of life. I didn't start with Walden as a blueprint. I started with a career-ending shoulder injury. Then I came to Ecuador and started applying some of the lessons I had learned in Walden. I actually revisited the book. So I had read it decades before, and I dug up an audiobook version on YouTube, went over it and reviewed it, and started applying more of it to the life that I was creating down here. And after a couple of years, I realized I'm almost doing everything that he recommended or following his path in the book, so why don't I just go all in and make 2025 the year where I experiment, make that my Walden. Now, Thoreau's experiment had specific rules. Live on as little as possible. Track every expense. Do meaningful work with your hands. Observe everything. Test your assumptions and write it all down. My version of Thoreau's rules. Volunteer placements provide the basics. Housing, food, and community. Minimal possessions. Simplify your life. Everything I have, I need to take with me when I move from place to place. I will say, not doing 100% on that one because I am traveling heavier than when I got down here, and I do need to lighten up. That's an ongoing experiment on my part. Do work that matters. For me, that's serving other people, serving communities in meaningful ways that actually makes a difference for them. I tracked what I kept, what I got rid of, and over time made some observations and decided the things that I got rid of, do they stay out of my life, or do I maybe decide to bring them back, maybe in a different form? Then write it all down and track what changes. See if these changes are getting you closer to where you want to go, or if they're taking you further away, and adjust accordingly. The goal wasn't suffering or deprivation, it was clarity. For me, it was all about stripping away the noise so that I can clearly hear the signal. Some lessons that I've learned on this path. Lesson number 1, removing things. Once I've determined, is this a need or a want? Those are two very different things, and a lot of the time they just become automatic. Well, I need this, like, not really. So, for example, do I need to be constantly connected, constantly online? Turns out no. I can grab a notebook and a pen and just long form, longhand, old school, write down some thoughts, think about things. And I found it to be much more rewarding to be doing that than to be constantly swiping and being online. Food. I prefer to go to the market, buy the food, and create my own meals as opposed to going and eating out. Doesn't mean I never go and dine out. Just means that a lot of the time, given the choice, if I have access to a kitchen, I would rather be preparing my own food. You determine what is a want versus what is a need, because the fewer wants you have in your life, the more space and the more time that opens up so you can focus on the needs, the things that are more important to you. It's about removing the noise so you can get to the signal. Butter was a big one for me. I cut out butter pretty much entirely, largely after I had farm fresh butter and realized store-bought butter isn't going to cut it anymore. So when butter's available, I'll use it. But I haven't bought butter in literally years. And does it make things nicer? I'm sure it does. You might be thinking, this guy's insane. Like, what's next? Coffee? I'm not telling you what to pick. I'm just telling you, be aware of wants versus needs. And lesson number 2. This experiment is ongoing. I will pick one thing. Is this a want or a need? Can I do without it? And I'll remove it for a period of time. Maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe longer. And I will revisit. How do I feel about that? Do I miss this thing? And if I do, I bring it back in. Very consciously, with awareness, and very mindfully. Yes, this is something I do want to have in my life. This experiment isn't about trying to become Thoreau. It's about using his map, his blueprint, applying it to my own life, and on that basis deciding what do I need in my life and what do I not need. It's about choosing things in your own life that you can let go of. After a while, your lifestyle can control you instead of you controlling your lifestyle. This for me was becoming more aware about what was in my life, why it was in my life, And if it earned its spot, if I actually found life to be better with whatever that thing is in it, then it stays. And if not, it goes. Thoreau wrote, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life, and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived." I came to Ecuador in the fall of 2022 and immediately started living a very deliberate and simple life, and revisited Walden again in audiobook form, and you could find that for free on YouTube, or if you prefer the book, check out your local library or at least a used bookstore. I wanted to see what life had to teach me, and I needed the space and the silence so that I could focus on my life, focus on what I wanted next, and see if I could open up and listen to what life was telling me to do as opposed to what I was trying to impose upon my life. I also wanted to make sure that when I reached the end of my life, that I felt that I had really lived, as opposed to in The Death of Ivan Ilyich by Tolstoy. I've referred to this in other videos. There's somebody that got to the end of his life, is lying on his deathbed, and asks himself the most horrifying question imaginable: what if my entire life has been wrong? I'm very, very clear. I don't want to be that guy. So I would rather take the slings and arrows and experiment, and have experiments not work out. It's not like everything I try works, but it does take me closer to a life that is more meaningful, more deliberate, simpler, and much more fulfilling. And for me, that alone makes it worth all the experiments. The same is available to anybody who wants to take this on. I'm sharing these lessons in this series in the hopes that other people can take something from it. Maybe they don't want to do the full experiment, but maybe, that actually wants versus needs. I could spend some time on that. Or I could simplify these areas of my life. A challenge. This month, I will give you two similar challenges. One is easy mode, and the second one a little bit harder. And they're both based on this one question. What's one thing in your life right now that you think you need, but you've never actually tested to see whether that's true? What's filling space that could be empty, and what noise is drowning out the signal? For tier 1, let's call this easy mode. Pick one small daily habit that you've been doing on autopilot for any length of time, and suspend it for at least 7 days. That could be something as simple as scrolling on your phone before you go to bed. You could stop doing that and instead read a book, or talk to your spouse or kids or family or friends. Remove that habit and replace it with something else. Or maybe you stop on your way to work and grab a coffee and a donut or a snack of some kind. Do you need that, or do you want that? I'm not going to tell you what to cut out of your life, but pick something that you do every day as a habit that maybe isn't serving you, and just stop doing it for 7 days and notice how you feel about it. I recently got off Facebook, which is something that I've been thinking about doing for years. And the first few days, was a little rough, and after that, I realized it would have been better if I had done that years and years before. And level 2, hard mode, is that same approach, but for 30 days. So think about a subscription service. Maybe it's Netflix. Maybe you have a membership to a gym or somewhere else that you almost never use. But for some reason, you convince yourself you need to keep paying for this thing because at some point you're going to start using it again. Stop it for 30 days. See over those 30 days how you feel about it, and then decide at the end whether you want to continue doing that thing or whether you're better off without it. So both of those challenges are aimed at the same thing. They just do it in a little bit of a different way and over a different time frame. And please, below in the comments, let me know what you're going to be dropping for the next 7 days or the next month. In episode number 2, next month, towards the end of February, we'll be talking about economy. Not the stock market, but the cost of your life. How much do you have to pay to maintain your current lifestyle? And is it worth it? Because once you can see what is in your life, how much it's costing you, then you can start making decisions. Is this worth it? Is this not worth it? Would I like to be spending more or less? Now, this wasn't part of some master plan on my part. This was a gradual process over years and refinement and constantly separating wants from needs and removing things from my life for a period of time, seeing how I felt. And if I missed whatever it was that I removed, I would bring it back into my life deliberately and consciously. And if I didn't miss it, I would let it go and move on to the next thing. This is not an easy process. I don't see an end to this process, but as long as I derive benefit from it, I plan to continue doing it. And as with anything that I talk about on any of these videos, please use the Bruce Lee approach. Take what's useful, discard what isn't, and add what is uniquely your own. No one size fits all. I'm not here to tell you how to live. I'm here to tell you that if you take a more conscious approach to life and remove things that are wants versus needs, a lot of the time you find out you don't need to put those things back in your life, and it simplifies things. And it gives you more time to enjoy doing things that you would rather be doing. So if you found this interesting or educational or maybe even a little amusing, please drop a like and a comment. Let me know what you're going to be cutting out of your life. Please do share these videos with anybody you think may benefit by them. The experiment continues. Looking forward to sharing more of what I've learned along the way in the hopes that it can help other people to live more simply and deliberately and enjoy more fulfilling lives. See you in the next one.